Welcome back to another little writer vlog. I had an epiphany today. It wasn't one of those epiphanies that feel good, like, when you find, divine intervention has given you the solution to a plot hole in your book, and you're just like, oh, and you can't wait to get home to, like, implement that. It wasn't one of those. So, you know how I've been working on this one horror romance where a girl inherits house from grandmother she didn't know. She has a sixth sense. Grandmother also might have had this same sixth sense, so she's like, oh, I can go find all these secrets to this strange ability that I have. And spoiler alert, house is haunted. There's an attractive groundskeeper that also works who is connected in a mysterious way to the house. There's things in the woods. That's the story I've been trying to write for like 5, 6, 7 years. Well, then last weekend, I was sitting outside and I had this grand idea for another horror romance in which this writer goes to this writer retreat, and all these other writers have been brought to this writer's retreat. And it's at this Victorian house. The other story where the girl inherits, it's a Victorian house with secrets. And in the writer retreat book, it's also a Victorian house. There's also things in the woods. I didn't catch this. And then I'm working on this new one, and I have revised the outline, just the outline, about 3 times now, trying to add in little things to make it better. And I had this epiphany this afternoon that I'm just writing the same story again. It has all the same elements. It has this writer, because the main character in this, the inheritance one, is also a writer. So I spent a little bit trying to find ways to make it different. And essentially all the things that I came up with were like things that would essentially change the entire premise of the book. Like, this group of people have been summoned somehow in mysterious ways to a location in this isolated, remote town, which is also very similar to the one I'm working on. And I spent some time thinking about it. I'm like, am I just writing the same book over and over and over again? Because after I wrote Stars and Bones, I also had this like moment where, like, any story that I tried to write after that, it felt like I was just rewriting Stars and Bones. Like, it felt like every character was just Juniper with a different name. I feel this way with, I think, every single book, that it's, oh, this is just like this book, or oh, it's just like this other book that I wrote. Like, there were several books that I tried to write, kind of tried to outline, where it was group of people, quest, 2 of them fall in love. And it was just so similar to this one high fantasy that I've not published. I don't know what I want to do with it. I don't know. It's just kind of sitting on my computer. But the premise is like, girl inherits magic. It's the only magic you can inherit. So she is, by law, the empress of the empire. But all the heirs want her dead because she wasn't supposed to, because she was actually a bastard child. And then she's got to go to this place in the far north, and like a person that worked for the king who was sent to kill her is like, okay, I'm going to take you there, but you're going to set me free from this bond that I have with the emperor, which is now you, and then we can both go our separate ways. And of course they fall in love. Oh, spoiler alert. Oh, you'll never see that coming. But then every book I tried to write after that also has a quest, and it was just, I have to be like, okay, I'm writing the same story again. What can I do to change it? That's the grand epiphany that I had, that I am literally writing the same story over again, this separate horror romance that I thought was like, oh, it's gonna be like a book 2. No, it's literally just book 1. Again, it's the same plot, same premise. After being disappointed in myself, after being excited about this idea, I think I'm either going to have to completely rewrite the second book that I came up with, the Writer Retreat. And it can still be a writer retreat, but like, instead of having things in the woods and supernatural, why don't it just be like a person murdering people? I don't know. I've got a lot of ideas now, but I have to be in this very special mood to rough draft, especially to outline. It's just a different type of creativity that I don't always have. And I very rarely have past like 3 o'clock on a work day. So it's gonna go in the back of my mind. It's gonna sit there for a little bit. It's gonna stew. I think I'm going to take some of the ideas that I had for the writer retreat. I'm going to use them in the inheritance horror romance because the middle kind of sagged on that one. I needed more plot to happen, which leads me into another idea that I had today. Not like a story idea, more of like a writer idea, which is what was I going to say? My brain just slammed. My brain just slammed into a wall. I had an idea. I knew where it was going. I had a segue, and it's gone. Well, moving on. I got a rejection today on a query. I'm not actively querying, like, as in, like, I'm not, like, eyeball deep in the query trenches. Like, if I see an agent open up to queries and they have, on their, like, little wish list books, or, like, books that fit in with books that I have ready to go, I will submit. And I've maybe sent 30 queries over the past year and a half. Like, it's not a tremendous amount considering I sent, like, over 200 on, like, my very first book that I queried. And I'm finding that I send fewer queries with each book because I am much more selective about the agents. But anyway, so this particular agent that I submitted to, I liked her. I like her socials. I kind of like how she phrased things. And my query made it through the first couple rounds because, I was following her on the old Twitter. It's this weird thing. Like, I don't know if it's like a parasocial relationship situation, but I just had this, like, notion that she'd be nice to work with. And, like, I really like this agent. I like how she does business. I like how she talks about her business. I like how she approaches her business. And so I kind of had this built up, like, I liked this agent before, but now after, like, really digging in and, like, following them for a while, I'm like, I really like her, like, as, like, the person she is portraying herself to be on social media, because I've never actually met her in person. And so when this rejection came through, it hurt a little bit. And, like, I haven't had a query hurt in a long time. Like, how they say, oh, finding an agent is kind of like speed dating. This kind of felt like that, like it was speed dating. And I really liked her, but she didn't like me back. Kind of a situation. And it hurt. It stung a little bit. I don't know. It was just so weird. It's like I haven't felt that way about querying in a long time. Several books ago. So one, it's proof that I still have emotions. I can feel things. They're in there. They're real deep. Okay. They're deep. But she also had some very insightful things to say about the book. Like things that, like, actually, like, make sense. It wasn't just like, it's not for me. No, it was actually advice I can take and run with. Like, I can take a look at my book and be like, what can I change to make it better? Because she said that, like, I don't know how she phrased it, but it was like there wasn't a clear plot line for my main character. Like, there wasn't, like, a spine holding all of the events together. Like, my main character didn't have enough agency. It's kind of what she didn't say those words. Those are the words that I always use to kind of mean that same thing. And that is something that I can go through this book and, like, to actually take a look at. Like, it's not just, oh, it's not right for me. No, this is concrete advice that I can take and run with, that I can use to improve how I approach my works. I admire that. She's still on my list. I might query her in the future. And I feel like she would be really nice to work with. I remember what it was. I remember what it was. It was about outlining and how I've tried to outline my stories more, and it's almost like I am outlining them too much. Because I was driving home and I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about one of the authors on this podcast is a severe outliner, and the other is an absolute pantser. And that just, I don't remember what exactly how they phrased it, but something they said made me think about how I have pants novels and I have also outlined novels. And recently, my last several novels that I've done have all been heavily outlined before I even start writing, except for that one high fantasy set like the Far North, The Librarian, The Fallen King. I pantsed that one. Like, I had a very vague notion of where I wanted to go, and I ended up writing like 80,000 words in like 4 weeks because I was just like, I built my characters, they had goals, and I kind of had a world, and I built it as I went. including things that I needed when I needed them. That got me thinking of all the books that I've done. The books that I wrote the fastest, the most fast books I wrote the quickest. The books that got from like outline to like a draft that I feel comfortable sharing with people, put it that way. I pantsed those. Stars and Bones, the first one, pantsed. I pantsed most of those. Like I had a rough idea where I wanted to go and like bullet points of things that I wanted to happen. But I pantsed most of those. I didn't spend days and weeks outlining first. I don't know what's happening with the hair today. It's been a day, okay? Very stressful morning. Heart of Stone. I pantsed that entire first book. That book. I have not pantsed a book as fast as that one since that one. And like the first draft was as close. Now hold on, let me rephrase that. The first draft of Heart of Stone, the first draft that I finished, is closer to the final draft than any other book that I've ever done. Don't ask me how I did it. I don't know. Magic. But every other book that I've done, Reaper, I pantsed most of that. I outlined a little bit, like I pantsed the first draft, then I went back and fixed it. And these last several novels that I've done, the horror romance, the horror romance, point two, like all these books that I've tried to outline. What was it? What's the one I did before? The Cinderella retelling. I have one of those, but she's an assassin. That one I also tried to outline. And I feel, for me, as an author, when I try to outline things, it loses something in the process because I'm so focused on the big picture. I'm so focused on getting the plot out that I lose track of the individual trees, like the individual scenes and like the emotions and the heart and like building toward the next scene and making sure every scene like has a purpose and builds towards something and that all the characters have a purpose for a scene. I don't do that when I outline. And I've never had this thought before. I've always thought that, oh, outlining is good so I can know where the plot is. Maybe it's not good for me. Maybe it's a deterrent for me and my books. Because like in the romance that I tried to write, the main character lacked agency. She needed more motivation. All the side characters were all much cooler than her. To the point where I was considering like, okay, do I just scrap this main character and like pick one of these cool side characters to be the main character? Because there was this one cool, emotionally stable goth best friend that was like all about the superstition. I'm like, what if she was just the main character? She'd be more fun. But I'm so focused on outlining and getting every little detail down first before I put the words down that I'm losing sight of like the individual trees. And it's a wild thought to have that maybe I don't need to outline. Maybe I should just start with Once Upon a Time and see where it takes me. There was one book that I did, not necessarily that I wrote Once Upon a Time and see where I went, but I wrote each chapter at a time, like one scene at a time. And like each chapter ended somewhere else, and I didn't have an ending. I struggled to make an ending for that book because I don't know where it was going. But the first 40,000 words were exciting. Maybe I am actually a pantser this whole time disguised as an outliner. So I'm going to take that nugget and the next book that I write, I think I'm just going to outline. And then again, as I'm thinking about this, I don't always choose to outline versus pants because there are some story ideas that like I don't know where it starts. Like with the horror romance, I'm not sure where that first scene is going to go. I don't know what that first scene is going to be. But there are some stories, specifically the stories that I have pantsed. Heart of Stone, Stars and Bones. The stories that I have pantsed, I have had a better sense of where it starts. Like Stars and Bones, I knew exactly where that story started. It started with her breaking into the castle to steal the crown and failing. Heart of Stone, it starts with Raven finding the arm that gets her into trouble. And I think it's just a wild concept to think about for me because all this time I have thought about me being an outliner. I have slowly built my outlining skills to sit here years later and contemplate, am I not an outliner? Am I a pantser? Am I a pantser the whole time? Am I a pantser in disguise? That's the name of the episode right there. Pantser in disguise. So I think from here, I think I'm gonna try to start just pantsing novels and see where it takes me. Because like I can outline like, okay, this is where the whole story is going. I have to somehow get over here and kind of aim all the story toward that. And I can kind of outline like the next scene or two, like, okay, this is going to happen, this is what's going to happen after that, and this is going to happen, and this is going to have to be because of that. That sense of action reaction that a lot of like the stories that I have outlined to death have been missing. Like one of the things I think in this book that I've been querying kind of lacklusterly is that there's a lot going on, there's a lot of layers, and this main character who like she goes to this prestigious academy and then discovers that her cousin who went to the academy the year before has gone missing. There are other students that have gone missing. All female students have gone missing, and it's weird. And her purpose, or like the main goal of the book, was for her to use her uh, paranormal sixth sense to see the ghosts that are kind of lingering in the school to help her solve the mystery of what happened to her cousin and to find her cousin if her cousin is still alive. That's also a question she has to solve. There's not a sense of the main character doing things and having like that reaction action, like the main character is not really taking actions and then like reactions of that are making the plot go forward. It's more like the story is happening around her sometimes. And I myself don't really like stories like that. So I don't know how I'm going to fix that. I might go find an editor to do like an editorial assessment to see, hey, what do you think? Can you give me more of like a detailed analysis of where I can fix things or how I can fix things? Because like a developmental edits or developmental edits. Deve- developmental. Why does that word sound funny? Does that sound funny? Am I saying that right? Developmental? Developmental. Whatever. Moving on. You know what I'm talking about. You know exactly the time edits I'm talking about. Those are expensive, and I don't really want to spend the money on one of those if I don't need it, if that makes sense. Like, I have faith in my ability to, like, write. I have faith and belief in my books. I know my books are good. They can be better, yes, but I don't want to spend, $3,500, which is more than I make in a month, by the way, at my day job, for them to give me very few things that I can change. Like, I would want that on a book that I know needs work and I'm not sure where that work needs to happen, kind of a thing. So I don't know. I think maybe editorial assessment is where I need for this book. Ooh, 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 ooh. So we're working on the cover for my next book. It is a high fantasy with vampires. There's fae. The fae aren't really doing anything. There's no fae court politics. No, it's just they're just fae. They've lived a long time. My idea for this world is like it's the fae were once these powerful magical beings, but like generations have gone by and like there were vampires that like would hunt fae for their magic. Generations later, the fae don't really have magic anymore. They just live a long time. That was either a child or a cow. My niece is here. We don't have cows, so I'm gonna say it was probably my niece making a weird noise. Whatever, it's fine, it's fine. But this book, it's a romantasy. And I say romantasy as in the romance is a big part of this book. It, like, there's plot too, yes, but it's really more like 50-50 romance plot. It is the most plot. It's the most romance focused book that I have ever written. There's also more spice in this book than I have ever written. And just hearing one of the girls that read it talk about those scenes is like, oh, this is weird. This is like not like where you're writing smutty fan fiction. You're just throwing that out in the universe and no one knows it's you writing. No, they're looking me in the face when they're saying this. Like, oh no, this is weird. Because like there was romance in like Stars and Bones. but it was vague because, it's still technically in that young adult range. As you get, more into like the series, like, yes, there's a little bit more romance. Man, I need to, 27 minutes in. I'm gonna need to call this pretty soon. We're gonna lose our mumbling my words. But that one, we are aiming for the end of October for that to come out. So I'll probably make like a nice little post when that book comes out because, book releases are really exciting when you have a new book come out. And it doesn't matter how many books you have come out, they're all exciting. Getting to hold your book for the first time, getting to read it, like physically, other people are looking at it. I think I might do like a, read the first chapter or something. I don't know. I will think more along that lines when I get there. Those are my thoughts for this lovely little Writer Wednesday. Were they coherent? No. Were they clear? No, that's still up for debate. Remember that one time when I was like, I'm gonna have like a whole outline for these, and I was like, the next one was like, no, because I was talking about like the books that I'm reading, but that was just too much. So I will just do separate videos for like, this is what I'm working on. These are my writer thoughts, and then I'll make separate videos for like, these are the books that I'm reading. These are the books I want to read, like reading updates. So it's just nice and separate, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, that's I need okay, this I need to end this right now. I'm also really hungry. So thank you for hanging out with me on this Writer Wednesday. I don't really have anything else to say. So goodbye. Made that mistake before. Ow. Ah.